unusual topic. It's a topic on a particular sector, which uh, a lot of students of BBA and MBA are absorbed into. We are very fortunate that we have an eminent person from the field of insurance with us today. Mr. Samiran Lahiri, he is an MA in economics from the Jawaharlal Nehru University. He is the executive director cum CEO of Preferred Partners Insurance Brokers India. He has previous working experience of over 3 decades in insurance industry of India and abroad, in various leadership roles like CEO, Asia Meditech Solutions. He was the president of the Peerless Group India, Chief Operations Officer of Rainbow Insurance Mauritius, and so on, after starting his career in Oriental Insurance India. He has handled more than, please note the number, more than 1 lakh claims as a property casualty claims specialist. With his experience, he is a speaker on insurance at various national and international forums. He has a number of journal publications and tutorial materials on technical issues of insurance distribution, coverage, claims, etc. Mr. Lahiri serves as an expert committee member in insurance in a few leading chambers of commerce in India. A very warm welcome, Mr. Samiran Lahiri, on behalf of IIAS, Siliguri and Kolkata. Now, to give a flow to the webinar, I would request you, Mr. Lahiri, that you see, for our students of Bachelor in Business Administration, let me inform you there are final year students here, and some second year and first year students are also there. They're in their 6th, 4th, and 2nd semester. Now, we all know that insurance is an important sector in the BFSI space. To be more specific, in the banking, financial services, and insurance space. Now, this COVID-19 has created, a typical problem in all sectors in the world, including insurance. Now, before we carry out the agenda, like what is the expected impact analysis of on the insurance industry, can we have a general overview of the insurance industry in India?
Yeah. Good afternoon, Dr. Chatterjee, my dear students and other participants. Thank you very much for inviting me in this webinar. And this is the right way to put things in perspective. So as Dr. Chatterjee says, I would like to give you an overview of the industry. Now, as you all may be knowing, am I audible to all?
Yes, sir, you are.
I am. Okay. As we all know, the general insurance industry has two sectors, broadly two sectors. One is known as life insurance sector, which insures lives, and the other is non-life, or more commonly known as general insurance. In US, it's known as the property casualty industry. So we have two divisions. One is life insurance, the other is general insurance division. And I will start with the premium volume that is generated in India in pre-COVID situation, so that we can do a meaningful comparison in post-COVID situation. So here we go. In the last concluded fiscal, that is 2019-20, the premium of general insurance industry in India was about 1,70,000 crores. I repeat, 1,70,000 crores. And the premium in life insurance segment was little more than 4 lakh crores annually. Now, what does this premium mean? This is the premium that you and I pay. You pay for your car, for motorcycle, an industrialist pays for his factories, a trader pays for his stocks, an exporter pays for his exports, and it covers everything. It covers everything. So this total of the premium that an individual, a business community pay totals up to 1,70,000 crores. Similarly, for life insurance, it is basically an individualistic industry. People take life insurance policy, not that the corporates do not take. They also take group term life insurance, so on and so forth, group annuity policy, pension policy. Pension also can be purchased and insurance. But by and large, it's a retail-centric industry. So they pay, their payment totals to about little more than 4 lakh crores annually. So it's a huge industry. It's a huge industry. And we will today discuss, since I'm talking to the would-be young professionals, young managers, and the future CEOs of the country, I would concentrate more on the general insurance side because it covers both individuals and the industry as such. We will draw reference to life insurance sector also. However, the focus would be more on the industry side, that is the general insurance side. Having said that, this is the size of the industry. Now, is the industry growing? Yes. The industry shows a healthy year-on-year growth rate of about 14.5%, which is good, which is more than the growth of the GDP of the country, as all my young friends would know. That is good. So even if you do an offsetting for the inflation, still there is a real growth in the insurance sector of India. This sector is rated as the 11th largest insurance market of the world. Now, there are 200 odd countries in the world, UN sanctioned countries. Having 11th position is really good. And Indian insurance market generates about 2% of the global insurance premium. Now, this premium in the life sector and the general sector is handled by 24 life insurance companies in India. As you all know, one is Life Insurance Corporation of India. That is the government-owned insurance company or corporation, if you may so wish to call it. And there are 33 general insurance companies in India. So 24 life insurance companies and 33 general insurance companies in a combined manner write the premium figures that I have just now told you. So, and the industry has a healthy growth rate. Now here, just for your information purpose, because we want to give the young learners an insight to the insurance industry. So, well, while we will do an impact analysis, we will also give you a briefing about the industry so that you are on the right footing if you happen to choose this industry as your future employment domain. So, within general insurance, there are standalone health insurance companies. You are all aware about health insurance, especially during this time of COVID-19. We are all talking about medical insurance. So, in India, there are 7, if I'm right, there are 7 standalone health insurance companies who are authorized to write only medical insurance and nothing else. Whereas a general insurance company like Oriental Insurance, ICICI Lombard, Bajaj Allianz, they are authorized to insure everything, including health insurance. So there is a subtle difference. So all inclusive, this is the market size. It has a healthy growth. Now, out of all classes of general insurance, you may be interested to know that motor insurance has the highest percentage of premium. They cover about 38% of the general insurance market of India, followed by medical insurance premium. That medical insurance could be for your family, for you as an individual, for corporates. Corporates also take group medical insurance for its employees, their dependent family members, their children, their parents in some cases. So medical insurance has a sizable chunk of the overall general insurance premium to the tune of about 26-27%, followed by other branches of insurance, fire, crop insurance, marine cargo insurance. So all totals up to the figure as I have stated above. And remember one thing, in Indian insurance market, if Professor Chatterjee has a private jet, I can insure that. And if I have a private cat, I can insure that also. So anything. If you have an elephant, I can insure that. If you have a dog, I can insure that. And as I said, if Professor Chatterjee has a private jetliner, I can insure that also. So everything can be insured, and it's a growing market. Now, just to before I close this section, I would just give you an idea about the kind of premium India gets. The biggest premium paying entity in India is Reliance Petrochemicals. I'm sure you all know about the Reliance refinery and petrochemical plants in Jamnagar and Hazira in Gujarat. You would be surprised to know, and you should be proud about Indian industry as such, and thereafter Indian insurance industry in particular, that this Reliance Petrochemical, for its Hazira and Jamnagar plant, they pay a hefty premium of 725 crores. They paid it in the last fiscal for a sum insured. That is, they valued it for the insurance purpose. They valued it for about 3 lakh crores INR. So they paid a sum of about 725 crores to New India Assurance, and there were other insurance companies also who also participated in the overall insurance of this particular industry, that is Reliance Petrochemical industry. And lastly, before I close this particular answer, you would be knowing that in insurance, there are both private sector players and public sector players. In general insurance, you have 4 public sector companies, namely New India Assurance, Oriental Insurance, United India Insurance, and National Insurance. The remaining ones are in the private sector. In life insurance sector, there is Life Insurance Corporation of India, commonly known as LIC of India, is in the government sector, the sole company in the government sector. The remaining 23 players are in the private sector. Now, life insurance, though a single player, they earn about 65% of the Indian life insurance market's premium. It's a huge entity. 65% market share. You all are management professionals. You know that's a dream share in the market. And come to the general insurance side, these 4 general insurance companies in the public sector, they earn about 45% of the market premium. So that implies the market share of the private players in the general side is more. They earn 55%, public sector earn 45%, whereas it's exactly the reverse in case of life insurance. So LIC, they have built up their credibility. They have built their credibility over years, and they have a huge agency force. They have a well-oiled operational machinery in place. They have good technical manpower to support the customers. They have a good product launch team. Every now and then, you must have seen, they launch a particular product. So they have the market leadership, and in a big way, they have the market leadership. So Professor Chatterjee, I would think this gives you a reasonably good overview of the Indian insurance market. And then if someone has any other question on this, we will take that in the question answer session. And also during any other section during our deliberation, we will have passing remarks to this. So that is my answer to this question, that where we stand now, I mean, we can analyze the future.
Sir, this has been more than reasonable, picture, a big picture of the industry in the shortest possible words.
You know, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you. Since we have many future management professionals sitting with us, so I have been little elaborate in the sense that they
Absolutely
should have a full backdrop of the
correct.
industry. So
Correct.
I'm taking a role of, if you may call me, a sort of a trainer also, rather
Correct.
than being very technical. So I
Ex-
hope you would allow me on that count.
Absolutely, sir, and that's the best way to proceed because you see, this is an area which absorbs such a huge manpower, whereas our students largely remain, in the dark regarding this sector, which is why, sir, you are here today. My next question to you would be that all this is fine, a jetliner, private jetliner can be insured, whereas even a cat can be insured. But what happens with the
Jetliner for you, and cat for me.
okay? And it could very well be the other way around. I'm a poor teacher.
Anyway, continue, please.
So what happens to in post COVID-19 now? Because I think the world is changing in every sector. Considering that, what will be the impact of COVID-19 in the insurance sector, specifically on different classes of claims?
Yes. Now, this is a very, very interesting question, and this is $1 million question. Okay. So, because this is a very critical question, I would answer this question touching upon individual classes of insurance so that everyone gets a very, what I should say, a specific view on which sector would be affected how much, rather than giving a general view that, okay, things are bad or things are good or things would be even worse. No, I would be very specific in my answer. And I'm sure people would like to know the impact on individual classes of insurance. So I would start with, since we are talking about post COVID-19 situation, I would start with health insurance. Uh, Health insurance market would see a surge. The people will buy more health insurance because they now know the importance of health insurance. As it is, we all know, COVID or no COVID, the enlightened mass of this country and world over, they know medical expenses are prohibitively high. In India, still it is manageable. Look at USA, look at Canada, look at any European country. They are just not affordable. So after this crisis, people are making queries to insurance companies about what is covered in medical insurance, what is the premium they have to pay. This depends on the amount of cover you choose and your age, so on and so forth. So this class will have a positive impact after the COVID-19 is over. But having said that, I have a caveat here. The market in last 2 months, I thought we will be flooded with queries followed by premium, huge amount of premium. But no, unfortunately, this has not happened in the short term. The reason is simple. People say now our future is uncertain, our salary, our income from business, those things are sort of uncertain, at least in the near term. So people have gone in wait and watch mode. They would definitely buy it in the medium term and in the long term. They would definitely buy. This has gone into people's head that this is sort of an essential insurance. Do roti kam khayenge, but health insurance to zarur karayenge. So this has gone into their head. So impact would be seen in the medium term in health insurance. The next comes life insurance, the pure term insurance, pure term life insurance. Pure term life insurance for the uninitiated, let me just quickly tell you, it's the purest form of life insurance. Very simple concept, very simple concept. Here, one buys a life insurance policy, let's say for 50 lakh rupees with an annual premium of, let's say, 8,000 rupees. Now he buys it for a definite term of 20 years, 25 years, 30 years. Now, if he dies, his family dependent members, his wife or whoever he has nominated gets full 50 lakh rupees without any deduction. And if he does not die, no premium is, no money, no claim proceed is given back to him. That is why it is the purest life insurance policy, and that is why the premium is so reasonable. Now there we are expecting a surge, and there was some estimate in the market, there would be about 25% to 30% demand increase in the term life insurance sector, which also is expected after this lockdown is lifted and in the medium term. Now, that is the life insurance and medical insurance story. Come back to the industry, the places where you people are going to occupy in next couple of years and in important positions. So you must have a very clear understanding of what is going in this risk market. This is the risk market. You know, in insurance, we sell fear. In loose terms, I can say we sell fear. In good terms, you may say we sell security. But the other side of the coin is we sell fear. Unless I can make you afraid, rightly or wrongly, you won't buy any insurance policy. I have to convince you that, look here, you are going from this place to that place, you may fall, you may break your leg. Then only you will buy an accident policy. If you are so confident and if I cannot make you nervous, you will never buy insurance from me. So that is a bit of selling technique. Anyway, so come to the general insurance part. I would start with motor insurance. As you all may be knowing, motor insurance has a compulsory part in it, which is the third-party legal liability insurance. Put in simple words, you cannot take your two-wheeler or a bus or a truck or a private four-wheeler on road unless you have purchased a third-party legal liability insurance. That is mandatory by law. That is prescribed in the Motor Vehicle Act of India, which has recently been revised in 2019. The logic is simple. You do anything with your car, never mind. But you cannot create a problem with the pedestrian. You cannot create a problem with the third-party car, which is not your car. So if something happens, you must be insured because you may go bankrupt. You may not have sufficient money to compensate the other car that you have damaged through your car. But the other guy who has suffered the loss must be compensated. That is why the Insurance Act says, Motor Vehicle Insurance Act says, you cannot ply your vehicle, you cannot take your vehicle on road without buying at least a third-party legal liability insurance. So this one will remain intact. You have to buy. I mean, now you may defer purchasing the insurance, but this market will remain constant because COVID or no COVID, if you are driving your vehicle, your two-wheeler, your four-wheeler, your bus, your truck, you have to mandatorily take an insurance or else you cannot take your car on road. So this will remain more or less okay. The next sector, bank financed insurance. You all, my young friends, would be knowing that if you are setting up a factory, you have to, in most of the cases, have to take a huge loan unless you come from a very rich family or you have a very rich father-in-law. You have to take a bank loan to set up your business. Now, if you are taking a bank loan, you have to insure your property. That's mandatory. And you have to pledge your insurance as well as the factory in the name of the bank. You all know. Now, this market will also not see any fall because it's mandatory. Come what may, you have to continue the insurance. So, we are not really worried about this also. The third is non-bank financed insurance. A very small and medium enterprise, micro, small and medium enterprise, which we call MSME and SME. There, yes, we are expecting a fall in the insurance because insurance is not mandatory. save and accept certain classes of insurance if you are dealing with hazardous items, hazardous chemical. But generally, by and large, insurance is not mandatory, like the one I mentioned for motor vehicle. Here, for your factory, for your stock, it's not mandatory. Last 2 months, we are seeing that they are deferring their decision to renew, or they are deferring their decision to buy a new insurance policy. Why? Because they say we have other liabilities, we have to pay school fees of our children, we have to pay EMI of our factory or our residence, so insurance takes a back seat. But eventually they have learned it the hard way, they have to buy insurance, but immediately the premium from this sector would take a dip. Next comes the large industry. Now here this is very interesting. The large industry, the one I just mentioned, Reliance Petrochemical. I can talk about many other institutes and factories and industries, Tatas and Birlas and Reliances and the big ones, the Jindals, the ArcelorMittals, the Tatas, the Tata Steels. They will continue their insurance. I don't foresee a dip in their premium for the simple reason that they cannot afford to remain uninsured. Any medium-sized loss in these kind of factories, be it NTPC, be it Steel Authority of India, be it any petrochemical plant, any medium-sized loss is of 100 crore rupees. That hits their free reserve directly. So they cannot afford to remain uninsured. Insurance is not an option or a choice to them. Insurance is sort of a compulsion to them. They are big and they have to have their plants insured. Next comes the marine transit insurance. Marine cargo insurance, very simple. You are exporting your goods from here to USA, you have to insure them because the ship may sink, the aircraft may crash, so your goods are lost, so you have to insure the cargo. Here I can see a fall because not many companies are producing. Last 2 to 3 months, the factories are all shut down. There is no production. If there is no production, there is reduced export. If there is reduced export, there is reduced insurance for these exports. Similarly, for domestic transits, if you are producing less, you are insuring less, you are dispatching less, you are trading less. Next comes the motor insurance. Last 2 months, though the official data has not yet come, the motor insurance, the automobile industry, they have taken a hit. There would be less sale. There will be less sale. And if there is less sale, there will be less insurance. So this sector also in post-corona time would take a hit for at least 6 months because people would first stabilize their EMI position. People will first stabilize their long-run commitments, then go for these vehicle purchase unless it's absolutely necessary. It's part of their trade. But vehicle, if I may say, if it's part of their luxury or their purchase which can wait, it would wait. So next 6 months, this would take a hit. That's my take on it. Last 2 sections I would mention, that's very interesting. You know, there is an insurance for event cancellation. For example, let me give you a very quick example. Tokyo Olympic. Tokyo Olympic was supposed to have been held in 2020, this year. Now, that event has been cancelled. I mean, here there is a technical hitch. So far it is postponed, but now later on they said, no, it's cancelled. So it was insured. The disruption, the monetary loss, the gate revenue, all sort of thing, it was insured for a huge amount. So Tokyo Olympic Committee would get a claim from the consortium of insurance companies. Similarly, this was just an example, a large example, but many other events you can insure. It could be IPL, it could be a cricket match, it could be a football match, it could be a musical concert. So organizers take an event insurance policy. So in the event is cancelled. In case the event is cancelled, you get a compensation from the insurance company. Now, I don't have to elaborate any further. You all are intelligent people. You can very well understand during COVID, right from marriage to conferences to cricket matches, this FIFA is having their FIFA or Euro is having their 60th anniversary this year. They were going to have from June matches all over Europe. Some match in Budapest, some match in Moscow, some match in Vienna. That's cancelled. So that's an event cancellation. So you have to pay for refund. You have to pay for, if you have hired a stadium, you have to pay for that train. So event cancellation insurance companies are going to have a big hit. They are really worried. The reinsurance market is worried about the event cancellation. The last insurance in this forum that I'm going to talk about is credit insurance. That's a very interesting branch of insurance. Suppose you are selling goods. Suppose you are exporting goods on credit to, let's say, Nigeria. It's not a letter of credit transaction. You are simply sending goods or selling goods on credit on a 60-day credit, 90-day credits, 30-day credit. And suppose the buying entity, that is the importer in Nigeria, the chap who is sitting in Lagos, goes bankrupt. COVID situation, there are many companies who have gone bankrupt, many companies who have cut salary, many companies who have touched their free reserves. So it's a very fluid situation. And in that situation, suppose somebody was in India, was supposed to have got payment for his export proceeds, he will not get the payment because that private entity in Lagos, let's say, has gone bankrupt. He can insure here under a credit insurance policy. That's the beauty of the policy. Bankruptcy of the buyer, he sold the items on credit, so he gets the claim from the insurance company. And there are many other cases also. It could be a deliberate default also. I have not gone bankrupt, but I am a very bad guy. I am not a very scrupulous person. I am an unscrupulous person. I have taken advantage of the situation and I have simply not paid my seller. So for the seller, it's a loss. He has been deprived of his payment, which otherwise would have been due to him within the close of 60 days. So that poor chap has not got his payment. If he is insured under a credit insurance policy, he would get his claim from the insurance company. Now, this sector, there are specialist credit insurance companies and specialist credit insurance reinsurers. They are really worried. I was talking to a couple of them, and there are really good credit insurance, reinsurance companies with branches in India also. Most of them operate from other countries, one from Belgium. They are really worried. They are really worried that there would be so many defaults because of no money and because of embargo, because of bankruptcy. And there could be a third reason also. Some countries, poor countries, their governments may impose an embargo on remittance of dollars or euros. In India, as you know, most of the trading is done on dollar invoicing. So the country has a very limited stock of dollar reserve. The stock has been depleted over years, over, let's say, last 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. And you never know what is going to be the scenario for next 2-3 months or maybe 2-3 years. So the government may impose an embargo on these companies that, no, my dear, I won't allow you to remit dollar out of the country. But that's a loss for the Indian exporter. So he would be compensated by the credit insurance. Now, coming back to the point, credit insurance and especially the reinsurers are really worried. So that would be my take on the possible impact, as Professor Chatterjee said, post-COVID. And just to conclude, this impact would be not on a long run basis. So it would range between 6 months and 1 year. That's my take. So one does not have to worry too much that it may go beyond 1 year, beyond 2 years. No, my take, I may be wrong, but as of now, I maintain the positivity, especially for India, that the impact would not go beyond 1 year for certain class. For certain class, there won't be any impact as such. For certain classes of insurance, the impact would be medium term, 4 to 6 months, and then they come back to normalcy. They are back in business, all right. But generally, insurance industry, I would say, in the upshot, in a nutshell, if I may allow to say, is by and large insulated, much better than restaurants, bars, casinos, luxury cruises, hotels, restaurants. They are sort of insulated because you have to buy insurance. I mean, in good times, you buy insurance because you are prospering. In bad times, you buy insurance because you have to protect whatever little you have. So that's it, Dr. Chatterjee. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Like it's a sort of a a positive that when we are hearing so much of negativity in many sectors, this is one sector probably which is giving us some positive vibes. Taking from there, because there are it's mainly for the students, and the students are keenly listening to you. What will be the employment scenario in the insurance industry post COVID-19? Because you see, our students are business administration students, and this is one sector where there can be a lot of absorption, BBA and MBA students in the insurance sector. So what is your take as an expert regarding the employment scenario after COVID-19?
Okay. This is a very interesting question and very pertinent question, especially when we have bright young stars in front of us. Very important question. But here also I would like to be slightly elaborate in the sense that I want to discuss the overall insurance ecosystem to my dear students here. Now, in the insurance ecosystem, you have insurance companies, you have life insurance companies, you have general insurance companies, and you have insurance brokers, you have direct insurance brokers, you have reinsurance brokers, you have corporate agents, you have third-party administrators, as you keep on hearing, TPAs who settle the medical insurance claims on your behalf, who allow the cashless benefit. Then you have survey firms. The survey firms are the ones who are the independent loss assessors. Then you have reinsurance companies. I spoke about reinsurance brokers, but there are reinsurance companies also. GICD is the state-run reinsurance company in India, which is 10th largest in the world, and they have a Lloyd's syndicate also in the Lloyd's of London called Syndicate 1947. So why I said this? Because all these are good employers. All these are good employers in this insurance ecosystem. They are all good employers. Now, there is an independent estimate done by Confederation of Indian Industry. They say there would be about 21 lakh need of 21 lakh educated insurance professionals by the year, I'm talking about India only, by the year 2025, which is not very far. And of course, I mean, only in 2025, there won't be a discrete vacancy of, there would be a vacancy, the cumulative vacancy would be of about 21 lakh manpower. But that's a gradually growing requirement. If I'm making myself clear, that's a gradually growing requirement. So in 2021, there would be a requirement of extra 2 lakh professionals. I'm talking about good, what you call white collar jobs, the young professionals who would come in the field of actuary, in insurance selling, in insurance underwriting, in insurance claims, in insurance product designing, so on and so forth. Now, this 21 lakh is a good number, and it's a healthy growing industry. As I said a few minutes ago, it's growing at a rate of 14.5%. That's a very good growth. And mind you, on a base of, let's say, 4 lakh plus 1 lakh 70,000, so nearly 6 lakh crore base, a growth of 14.5% is a good growth. East African markets grow at about this rate, 14 to 17%. Look at Tanzania, the coastal East African market. Look at Kenya. Look at Botswana. So they grow at this rate. But in India, the prospect I see is more because the growth is on a year-on-year basis very healthy, and the base is high. Having a 20% growth rate on a small base is no big deal. But having a year-on-year growth rate of 14%, 15%, even in bad times, even during the recession times that we saw in 2009, 2008, 2009, maintaining the growth rate is pretty interesting. So the employment situation will not be bad. Temporarily, post-COVID situation, whoever is employed in insurance sector or in insurance broking, they may, for which you people are not impacted. You people are not impacted. The existing ones who are in job, especially in senior leadership roles, they are taking a voluntary salary cut like in all other industries. But in future, when this COVID is gone, there would be a bounce back of the industry and there would be huge employment opportunity. Now, you may ask me a question that what about the artificial intelligence? What about the robotics? Will they take our jobs? No, no. Jobs will increase here. We will ask robots to do the routine works, registering a claim, issuing an endorsement, issuing a routine vanilla across the OTC, over-the-counter policies. But the brain job would be done by the human beings, by people like you who are trained, maybe in insurance, may not be in insurance, but they have been trained to have a logical thought process. They know how to think, how to tackle a problem. And then there can be a in-house training, on-the-job training, all sort of things. So this computer and human beings, they support each other, they complement each other. They don't take away the employment opportunity of a professional management graduate or a postgraduate or somebody who has done a professional course, somebody who has done a general degree and done well with a good exposure in the market. Employability would be good, and my views are supported by Confederation of Indian Industries estimate that there would be 2.1 million educated manpower requirement in the insurance industry. That's good. That's fine. I'm very upbeat about the employability prospect of insurance industry, like general broking industry. Let me put it, the entire insurance ecosystem in India. As a matter of fact, in entire Southeast Asia, Hong Kong is going, Singapore is going, East Africa, forget about Asia, come to Africa, there would be huge opportunity, but that would be for little more educated, not educated, little more experienced persons. So that's my take. Employment, don't worry. Yes, Dr. Chatterjee, over to you.
Thank you so much, because this is the time when our students need this sort of encouragement, and it gives us an avenue where the students can seek a career, a lifetime career. Now, one small thing, one query. The students, by the by, can start posting their questions. Even the faculty will take questions after this. You see, Indian industry, like whatever we heard from you, we can see that it's a huge mammoth industry. But again, the country is also mammoth in terms of manpower,
True.
in terms of the population. Now, how do we place the insurance industry, Indian insurance industry, vis-a-vis the global industry? You
Okay,
know,
that's a very interesting question. As you rightly said, I mean, by default, we would have a good volume because of the area, because of the huge population. We are talking about a 138 crore population now. So there would be by default a good market. We all understand. But your question is, how are we globally positioned? I think I mentioned in one of the previous, to answer one of your previous questions, that we have 2% of the global premium, and our rank is 11th in the global market in terms of volume. But that is giving only half picture or half the picture of the overall scenario, global scenario. Now, if you compare the insurance premium as a percentage of gross domestic product of the country, that is how we calculate the penetration of insurance in a particular country. What is the volume of insurance premium as a percentage to the overall gross domestic product of the country? Now, there I'm afraid we are not doing too good because lack of awareness, lack of penetration. Our penetration, as I mentioned, is the volume of insurance premium as a percentage of gross domestic product is 3.7% in India, life and general combined. The general insurance, the industrial penetration is not even 1% of the GDP. That is, I can give you a current estimate, it's about 0.9% only, which is not good. Now compare that. That means we have not penetrated well. We have not penetrated well, and I take it positively. Since we have not penetrated well, we have a good potential to penetrate now, isn't it? If I ask you a question, how many of you have a toothpaste in your house? Everyone will raise his hand. Now, if I ask how many of you have a householder insurance, not many hands will be raised. So, householder insurance has a better prospect than selling a toothpaste. I take it in this way. So, any negativity has to be turned into positivity. So, there is a huge potential. But come to the penetration part, your question. I mean, where do we stand vis-a-vis other countries in the world? Similar countries, dissimilar countries. So, what is 3.7% here? Our, let's say, measure of penetration is 21% in Taiwan, is about 9% in Japan, is about 7% in USA, is about 9% in France, is about 13% in South Africa, is about 18% in Hong Kong. So we have to walk a long way to make people aware, to make people richer. After all, insurance is still not considered as an essential commodity. पहले तो हम खाएंगे, बच्चों को पढ़ाएंगे, फिर बीमा खरीदेंगे. I remember when we started rural insurance, people started thinking this is another form of taxation by the government. So yes, penetration wise, globally, we are not too good, but that reflects into a better prospect in this country. People are becoming more and more aware. The industry is launching more and more products, customer-friendly product, easily priced product, easily sellable product. So things would be better, but as of now, that's the position. We are not too good. Yeah, over to you.
okay. So yes, we should take it in a positive note. If we can only develop when we are not too good. If we are already too good, then what do we do? There is very little scope for improvement. So that we should take heart from it. And now what let us do is, because we are coming to the close of the session, I would request, you see, as normal people, as member of the public, we get to hear a lot of stories about payments, more so about non-payment by the insurance company, and there are a lot of strife regarding it. So, I'm not going to the details of that, but from your long experience in this industry, if you could share one or two anecdotes with us, like how this, otherwise it's very simple. A man has insured himself, he has died, and then his family should get the money, sort of. But how does the dispute, how does the dispute arise at all? So we'd like to hear one or two anecdotes from you.
Okay. I mean, as you rightly mentioned, this is perhaps not the right forum to discuss about the modalities of the claim, but let us talk about some interesting claims. That is what you want me to discuss, isn't it? If I got you right.
Absolutely, absolutely, because
And
insurance is a very interesting sector.
I'll tell you interesting stories.
Okay.
Okay, there are so many of them, but because of the time constraint, let me tell you interesting stories. The first would be, let's say, Titanic. The Titanic, as we all know, sank in the year 1912. 1912, April 1912, on her maiden voyage from Southampton to New York City. Now, you won't believe this was insured in the Lloyd's. The Allianz was the lead underwriter. There were 71 co-insurers. It was insured for $5 million at a nominal premium of £7,500 only. And they got the claim. This was the unsinkable ship. And they got the claim within 30 days. And why I started my answer with this. By the time I'm not too sure, but I have been told this story by some of my friends in Lloyd's, that the premium was paid late. The Lloyd's syndicate simply agreed that yes, we will insure your ship. Don't worry, we will insure this voyage. But when the slip was signed, basically the policy was signed. By that time, Titanic had already sunk. But insurers kept their commitment. They paid the claim. The policy was not even signed. By that time, the Titanic was gone. But insurance kept their commitment. Interesting policies are there regarding claims. Let me tell you about one very interesting, funny case. There is a policy issued devised by Lloyd's, one of the Lloyd's syndicates. Lloyd's is not an insurance company, it's a market. So in Lloyd's market, there is a policy called multiple birth policy. Very simply, you are expecting one child, suddenly you get twins. So you have to prepare, so your expenses are double. You have to prepare, and especially in UK or in Europe, one child versus two child, education expense, doctor visit, medicines, baby food, it's a huge expense. So you are not prepared, so you can insure. कि अगर हमारा twin हो गया, what to do? So there is a multiple birth policy. One couple took a multiple birth policy and they had a twin. So they got the claim. They were very happy and they continued. After 4 years, again the lady became pregnant. And interestingly, again she had twins. And again she got the claim. And then the insurance company, Lloyd's, was ready to continue the policy. But the husband says, enough is enough. I am not going to continue the policy. I am happy with 4 children. So that's interesting. Do you know, in a particular year, there are about 150 deaths due to coconut fall. You are going to Thailand, you are going to a remote island, you are going to Mauritius, and world over, globally, people die because coconuts fall on their head. Children die because coconuts fall on their head, and insurance companies, if it is an accidental death due to coconut fall, insurance company, if you have an insurance policy or a good travel policy, they will pay your claim because this is considered to be a accidental loss. The last story that comes to our mind, maybe only on claims, real claims, we can have another meeting, but the last claim Very funny claim, but that's US. This claim happened in US, and there are many such claims, and this is a real claim I'm telling you. There was a couple. The couple went on vacation for about 7 days to another state in US or maybe out of US. And a thief entered their house, and he entered from some window or some other place, but he wanted to get out of the garage after he stole so many things, I mean, gadgets, these, that, clothes, shoes, electronic items, television. Now, while he wanted to escape through the garage door, the lock was not functioning. The bolt was not functioning. Because of the malfunctioning, he was locked inside the garage. Now, the poor thief, I feel very bad about the thief. There was nothing to eat. In the garage, there was only stock of dog food and lot of soda bottles. So the chap, the thief, survived for next 7 days only on dog food and soda. He used to drink soda and he used to eat the dog food, whatever dog food he had there. And eventually, just before the couple came back, he could manage to escape. Somehow that bolt opened and he escaped. Okay. And he was traumatized and he had a huge mental shock. After all, they are much worse than our thieves. Our thieves don't have emotional shocks and all these things, but they are, after all, gore chor hai na? They are American thieves. Huh? This fellow, believe me, he filed a suit asking for compensation for his moral damage, trouble, annoyance, and distress to the tune of $1 million on this landlord who could not properly maintain the garage lock and causing such distress. Now, the court awarded $30,000 or something against the thief, that why did you do trespass? This is illegal. $30,000 for trespassing. You should not have gone there to steal his items. Another, I think, $50,000 worth of goods that he had stolen. If he could give the goods back, or he had to pay back $50,000 monetary value of the goods he had burgled, he had robbed. So that was one part of the story. And there was a $500,000 award against the landlord on civil law, under law of tort, causing this moral damage and moral damage and stress and distress to this thief. So this is a funny real life situation. ये सब चीज यूएसए में ही होता है. So even becoming a thief would be a profitable proposition. You can act that yes, I'm distressed. I had to survive on dog food. So that's about it. Yeah, Dr. Chatterjee.
Thank you so much. Because we have been hearing only about insurance. It's either loss of life or loss of property. But there is a funnier side to insurance. Thank you for revealing that. And with that, we will come to the end of the session. It is for the students and the rest who are here. I thank
If you have any questions,
I have already written that. I have already written that. I think but there are so many new things for them. Like it's getting absorbed. So and I have asked. All the questions were asked on their behalf. So the point is that all of you will be glad to know that Mr. Lahiri and myself, we have been classmates in school. We used to live in the same hostel in school, and so from our childhood we have known each other. So I feel so proud of Mr. Lahiri being such a towering figure in this industry worldwide. And so thank you very much. And if we go by the topic, is insurance insured? So there have been so many positives from your side that our students can look up to, look forward to, and we feel that the insurance industry, at least, is really ensured even after COVID-19. So with that note, thank you so much for taking out your valuable time. I
No problem.
personally know how busy you are, even during this lockdown. So thank you so much. One request, and you agreed to do it. So thank you so very much on behalf of all the students.
Thank you.
Anytime, anytime you come to Siliguri, we will like to host you there.
Perfectly all right. And my best wishes to all your students. Keep studying, keep keep reading the what is happening all over the world, not only on insurance, on anything. You have to have 360-degree view on world affairs, and then you become a true global citizen.
Correct.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Bye.
you. All the best. All
All
the best.
right. Bye.